Thank you, the panel, for all your testimony. And we all agree, and you apparently agree with us. We need more money for transportation infrastructure. Mr. Spear and Mr. Mortimer, the businesses you represent depend on reliable, congestion-free roadways and infrastructure to spur economic productivity. The state of California recently passed a major bipartisan transportation bill with 2/3 vote of our legislature, known as SB 1, and provides $54 billion in infrastructure investment over the next decade. SB 1 is paid for with a 12% gas tax increase and increased fees on energy-efficient cars, since they are not currently paying their fair share as users of the highway. Do you support the California Infrastructure Package SB 1? Because there's an effort to repeal the package, and we be opposed to such an effort.
Taking a state-by-state approach is very, very difficult for an industry like ours that's interstate commerce. The platform that we would propose is very much a federal one, because we move state to state. We're in and out of California all the time. California does have the luxury of raising the kind of revenue needed. Whether we agree with it or not is irrelevant, actually, but you do have that ability. Most states don't. In fact, over half the states in the United States do not have the ability to raise that kind of cash, certainly not the ability to administer it. There is a federal role. We don't believe in devolution. We think there's a constitutional responsibility of this body, this legislative branch, to fulfill when it comes to interstate commerce. So we would look at working with state to state by having a strong federally funded program and administrative capability to ensure that all states have the ability to do it, not just California.
Thank you. Mr. Mortimer.
Yes, Congresswoman. So the U.S. Chamber, again, like Chris, we're very focused on the federal and the interstate connection there and the interstate commerce. That being said, I believe that the California Chamber and others have been very opposed to any effort to repeal that, because my understanding is the California business community was the one that helped enact that. So I'll let them speak for themselves. But again, from our perspective is we're trying to get into a situation where we need to modernize our infrastructure. It's going to take all the stakeholders, both federal, state, and local, to put more resources to the table. And so we need to have that discussion, and we need to really think through these things.
We addressed that. California took care of that. Mr. Schroer and Mr. Lewis, the Trump administration's plan calls for more state investment, but prohibits state governments from setting local higher preferences on infrastructure projects. Most taxpayers believe that when they are paying for a public transportation project, they should be given a preference on jobs associated with the project. As representatives of Tennessee and Colorado DOTs, do you believe you and other state DOTs should be allowed to set local higher preferences for your citizens that are paying for the vast majority of the state projects?
You want to take that one? I'll be glad to answer it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Congressman. I think that there's a balance. We have a major project in Colorado right now on Interstate 70. It's a $1.2 billion renovation of Interstate 70 between Denver International Airport and downtown. We were able to work with the US DOT and the Federal Highway Administration on a pilot program that allowed a percentage of local hire. It was very important to the community that we were a disadvantaged community that this project is going through, that we have a training program and a hire program within that affected community. And it was very effective in getting support from the community on moving the project forward. But I do think that I support that. I think we need to be careful not to become islands. Yeah. Because it is the United States of America.
Right.
In Tennessee, we have not pursued that option. I will say that we have a lot of work going on. We actually have almost full employment in the state of Tennessee, which makes a big difference, and it also then makes it sometimes difficult to man the projects that we're doing. We do entertain quotes from outside of the state contractors, and they bid as they would normally, and we are a low bid state, so we look at that. But I think it's important to know that the cost to bring in people from other states to do work is part of the process, and our local contractors and workforce actually have a competitive price advantage because they are just that local.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I run out of time, but I had another question. May I go on? This is for Mr. Schroer, Mr. Lee. Ms. Lee, in addition to California passing the $54 billion infrastructure package, the County of LA has recently passed 2 transportation measures. This is the county. Provide $120 billion infrastructure over next 40 years. The voters approved it by 70%. The most recent infrastructure sales tax implemented was last year. I'm concerned that the administration infrastructure plan significantly penalizes state and local governments that raised revenues prior to 2018. Not only do states and locals that recently passed this infrastructure package score poorly when rated by the plan, the administration limits the project to qualify for only 5% or $5 billion out of the $100 billion for new incentive projects. Well, we share the concern, and I'm sure you would too, that the states have done the right thing and yet they're being penalized and should be rewarded instead.
Yes, it seems like it's counterproductive to penalize the states that have been able to find the funding and be able to move forward and actually make those investments in infrastructure. So it seems like this is one of those situations where, you know, there's no need for the federal government to weigh in against those states that have been able to find that funding.
Thank you.
So Tennessee is one of those states that have passed new revenue. We did it last year. There are 31 states that have done that. AASHTO for sure believes that there has to be, we have to be given credit for that. I know the president's package supposedly has a clawback provision where credit is given for states that have passed laws to increase revenue for the last several year period. We haven't yet seen the formula. We hope that that's part of the president's package, and if that were to pass, so that we get credit for what we've done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. LaMalfa.